Hello, everybody. Rune from Cybernet Moon here today, and welcome back to Cybernet Reviews, the series where I review anything I feel like, really. I'm back with part 2 of the Tales of Kai, a review/story overview, far earlier than expected. And I plan to actually get this out later in the week. However, I have now seen that I'm actually pretty fast writer when it comes to these kinds of scripts, so I was able to get it out today, and I'm really, really happy I was. Anyway, I will say, really quickly, an update for the channel before we get into the review. I will be trying to post weekly, along with at least one stream a week, just to keep a content flow up on the channel for all of you to enjoy. Now, let's get on to the Tales of Kai timeline. Tales of Kai Part 2, the 15 timeline. To get this out of the way now, let's talk characters. First, our Kai for this section of our timeline, in who we'll call 15. At least that's his call sign. He's an upbeat, slightly rebellious, and a jokester of a high schooler, and somehow has a girlfriend, Charlotte Graves, the most popular girl in school, despite being one of the most shy people you'll ever meet, but outgoing when it comes to most. She's also one of the only people Kai truly enjoys to spend time with. Past Kai and Charlotte, we also have 15 Cub, Kai's rude yet formal punk older brother. Now that we have our main characters, let's dive into it. New York City, 2009. Kai just transferred over from his high school back in where he used to live to Midtown High. And it's a big adjustment for Kai. He misses all of his old friends, yet his brother, Cub, is pretty used to it already. When it comes to this, Kai usually tries to calm down using more conventional means, mostly sword practice. Kai is what, well, this world would call one of the seven bearers of the elements. Kai has the element of fire, and by proxy, the Sword of the Flames. He uses this sword to generate flames from himself and the blade, and mostly practice sword fighting. That's something he enjoys to do in his downtime. Never really had to do a real fight, but yeah, he has fun. To Kai's knowledge, though, he's the only one who can do this. There is no seven bearers, there's one bearer, and that's Kai. September 4th, on the first day of school. It's quite weird, honestly. Kai wasn't used to going to school this early. There was a couple days, Kai thought, before you'd get to school because of Labor Day, but he looked past it. I guess things were just different in other places. When he got to school, well, mainly just took his classes. He was picked on a bit, but nothing new. He was basically the new guy. He didn't expect anything different. Cub helped Kai through these times until about late September, the 27th. Kai met a girl named Charlotte. They became close friends, and about a few weeks later, on September 31st, Kai finally got his first ever girlfriend, Charlotte herself. Kai and Charlotte were quite the match for each other. The most popular girl in school and the new guy, people didn't really see it coming. Kai sure was picked on a bit more, but he really didn't care anymore. He had basically the girl of his dreams, the best older brother he could ask for, and, well, a really good life. At least, that's what he thought. October 7th. Kai was attacked by a man with nunchucks that exploded in water. He introduced himself as one of the seven bearers, telling Kai that, well, New York City was his turf, and if Kai didn't leave, then he would forcibly remove him from this world. Kai refused to back down and decided that he would fight the man. And after a couple days prep time, October 10th, 7 a.m., they met outside the high midtown, ready for a scrap. Multiple kids were out there watching, but Kai and the water bearer, named Sean, did not care. As they began their fight, Kai was at an obvious disadvantage. This guy was faster, stronger, better than him, had the opposing element to his own that beat him. Kai didn't see a way out until his brother stepped in, using brass knuckles, which exputed lightning, revealing himself to be the lightning bearer. As they both tag teamed on Sean, Sean ran away, said he'd be back with a few of the other bearers to make sure that this job was done. It had been a few weeks since that encounter, or October 27th. Kai and Cub were mostly doing fine. Kai had a date, and so he went off that night. Well, Cub had other things to do. During his time in the city, Cub became a part of a small underground gang, which he had quickly risen to the top of, becoming its leader. Cub eventually started to tear it down from the inside and then rebuild it in his image. Multiple bearers came after him, such as the Bearer of Light, the Bearer of Dark, and the Bearer of Ice. However, Cub, with his lightning, did not care and simply retorted against them, almost ending their lives, but sparing them, simply because, well, he didn't want to get arrested if their bodies were found. As this kept going on, we cut to October 31st, Halloween. The water bearer was back, along with the light, dark ice, and the new bearer, and the final bearer, the bearer of Earth. It was all of them against Kai and Cub. Snow started to fall as this dramatic showdown began, and Kai fought the water on his own, while Cub could mostly handle the rest of them until he got overwhelmed. And the moment that happened, well, there was no chance for him. Kai had to go save his older brother, of which he did, defeating each bearer, or one after another, from light to the earth, to ice, to every single one of them, until he approached the dark bearer. The bearer of shadows, as you would call it. We then have our final confrontation. The shadow bearer was quite the strong person to Kai. However, Cub was able to break free from his chains and decimate him together with his brother. When they got back, they were all extremely happy. Everyone was fine, and they thought it to be the end. How wrong they were. November 4th. Things had changed. Kai and Charlotte were mostly gone, and Cub was on his own. He decided to root out some of the corruption in the city, getting rid of a couple rival gangs, tipping off the police to a couple of their hideouts while staying anonymous. He cleaned up the city while also being a problem in it, which was something Cub knew was wrong, but knew he had to do it. Cub kept going, rooting out corrupt cops, corrupt government officials, until eventually he took the life of someone who threatened to kill Kai for what Cub had done. Kai, just hearing Cub had taken a life, thought he'd gone too far, and the two brothers battled. Their battle went on for some hours. Kai trying to reconcile with his brother, trying to get him to stop this, but Cub, he was unwilling. He may have killed a man, but it was to protect his one and only family. Their parents died long ago. Cub had to sustain two jobs just to be able to live in New York, and that was with a ve- extremely small apartment with barely the basic utensils needed. Kai still fought his brother on most things, though. Their battle ended in a draw, both of them going their separate ways. Cub still living alone, and Kai moving in with his girlfriend and her parents. It was a time of happiness for Kai, yet sorrow for him as well, and vice versa for Cub. On one hand, he was happy he didn't have to work as much, but Cub lost his only family, his brother. He went on a rampage. He became ruthless on how he treated his gang, and he did not care as long as the mission got done. They answered to him and him alone, becoming a dictator of a gang boss. And so Kai eventually went back to try and stop his brother again from ruining his perfect life. Cub was a nice kid, sure. He was a punk, but still, he was still nice. Everyone enjoyed Cub. Everyone liked Cub. Kai loved his brother, and Cub loved his brother as well, but they fought still. Eventually, on November 31st, Kai reigned victorious against his brother, and Cub saw the error of his ways. Cub moved in with Kai and his girlfriend Charlotte. He couldn't afford the place anymore. He got fired from both of his jobs, and gang money wasn't exactly paying off. We cut to December 5th. Something had changed about Kai. He exuded this dark aura. He left his sword behind at home. Instead of usually using its ability to manifest, he just beat people up with his fists, and it wasn't for any good reason like it usually is. He just did it because he felt like it, because he felt like he was above them. Charlotte even noticed this change and tried to confront Kai about it, but Kai ignored her. Charlotte went to Cub, but Cub told her there wasn't much he could do, but he would try. Over December, Cub tried to reason with his brother, fighting multiple times, but there was nothing he could really do. Kai was stronger than him, and so Cub had to pull some dirty tactics against him. Cub eventually saw what was wrong with him. He had been corrupted by some kind of darkness. Not like one of the dark bearers, no. He didn't exude any energy of shadow. He had this eerie darkness to him, a darkness that seemingly could never be cleansed. Cub eventually tried to talk his brother out of it, but as he did this, his brother simply swatted him away and said he was no longer brothers. He was no longer Kai. He was Shadow. Shadow Kai, if you will. He explained his old body from his original universe was gone, but still within him, needing time to recharge, and until then he needed a shape, a form, and Kai was the perfect choice. He teleported outside of this timeline, this dimension. Cub, distraught for weeks, did not know what to do. Charlotte, she knew about the life that Kai and Cub had led as bearers, but this was a shock to her. She didn't blame Cub for anything. She just wished she had her boyfriend back. She missed him. And 15's soul missed her as well. December 31st, 1 p.m. Cub was training in his old apartment. He'd bought it back. He needed time to think. He was behind on rent, but still, well, it didn't matter to him. He just needed some time alone. As he did this, a portal opened of a man carrying a sword. and that is where we'll end our, our retrospective of this timeline, in the 15 timeline. I know this was a lot shorter part than the last, but this timeline does take over. At least the major story takes place from September to December, and that 4 month gap, a lot of stuff happens within it. Just here, I'm going over the overview of it. Still, I hope you all enjoyed part two of the Kai review, and I will be back maybe later this week or next week with part three, the detective timeline. Thank you all. I've been Cybernet Moon,